The context is the independence vote for East Timor, 1999, and they actually got independence in 2002. A lot of conflict at the time. They were very food insecure. We're talking about a country of about 1 million people, 60% below the poverty line, and about 80% of the people in the country are in agriculture. They have a hungry season every year. That's usually from 2 to 3 months long, when there's not enough to eat. It is the 4th lowest country globally in terms of the global hunger index. And it's one of the 3 worst countries in the world for under aged 5 stunting. The basic problem was, how do we reduce the hungry season? How do we increase crop production in the island? So getting this genetic variation, it could come off the shelf, and there are international centers that have got a lot of genetic variation for those food crops. And there were some real stars. All of this genetic material is freely available and moves from farmer to farmer. It's not hybrid, so it reproduces itself, and it's certainly not genetically modified. So the calorie problem is the main problem that causes this hungry season. But they've also got deficiency symptoms from iron and from vitamin A. Some of the sweet potatoes are a little bit orange, like a carrot, and it's beta-carotene in there. So that means that we're also hitting the vitamin A deficiency. In the second phase, they're then taken out, and we tested it with 4,000 different farmers. By going back and visiting them every 2 weeks or so, you can compare the local with the new stuff, and so you really get a good idea of what does well and what doesn't well. So we're talking about maize that yields between 45 and 50% more than what they had before. Sweet potatoes, the yield increase is between 60 and more than 100%. You double the yield. How do you get that productivity right out across the country? They've got to come in good time for planting, so that you can get them in the ground on time when the rains are coming. So we had to get a system that was cheap, so the government could afford it, and was sustainable. And it was making community-based seed groups based on the existing groupings that were already out there. Everybody in the group gets the extra seeds that we grow, and any extra could be sold. We then got about 1,200 seed groups going over 3 years across the country. And so that meant that the adoption of these new cultivars went from about 10% up to about 30%. The new varieties was a bit more susceptible to weevils. We found out that if you store the maize into an airtight container, they basically lose the oxygen, build up a CO2, and they kill themselves. So we introduced about 42,000 steel drums. They could then put the seeds in there, which would mean that they could get all the value of this yield increase from the maize and lose none of it. And so when those were sold for $5 a drum, we managed to twin that with 1.5 kilos of maize seed. And that got out to even more farmers. So 1 in every 2 households in the country is now using this new material. It's very much framed their approach to research. We've developed their research department, and when they see what they can do themselves in terms of moving forward in food security, we hope that they will continue.